Hi, everybody. This is Angel Arts again, and welcome to yet another Let's Interview the Finalists for the Dragon Age Tabletop Campaign Season 2. I am here with Hannah. Say hi, Hannah.
Hey, hi.
And Hannah is here to start talking about the dwarf character that she's proposing. But first, let's start with the out of character questions.
Yeah.
So, number one, I wanted to ask you, what is it about the Dragon Age universe that interests you?
Well, there's so much. I mean, it's such a great world. That's why you're playing it like three times now. I played it eight times. Um, and that's just Inquisition. I won't even tell you how many times I played Origins.
Nice.
It's very diverse, so you can become invested in so many different portions of it. Whether you're invested in the mages, the Templars, Dalish elves, Kunari, dwarves, city elves, whatever. Yeah, it's endless. And there's so many different moral questions that come with the Dragon Age universe, and there's no one story, I don't feel. There's no right answers, wrong answers. There's not many good guys and bad guys. It's really how you want to play it. And as a philosophy major, that is something that especially appeals to me because, it's great when you've got one of those questions, whether it's the mages or Templars perhaps, and whether or not you should be giving mages total freedom to do whatever they want, or whether there does need to be some boundaries on it and asking those questions and then discussing it with other players as well. It can become quite a hot debate topic. I also like how it breaks, traditional fantasy tropes, the elves being the second class citizens for a change rather than
Yes.
these Tolkien immortal high elves. Dwarves, they aren't just these grumpy axe wielding ground dwellers. There are a few of those, but they're not generally like that as a stereotype. And I mean, there are some great characters that exist in the DA universe, and there's a lot you can do with it. Really, it's. I mean, by now with the novels and the games as well, there's just such a wide scope for things you can do with it. So there's a bunch of reasons there as to why I love the Dragon Age universe.
Second question, what is it about tabletop gaming or role playing that interests you?
Well, it's a social event, which I love. It's intriguing to get to know so many different characters and the players behind them, all of which has been developed from the lore that I've just been discussing, lore we've already been given, and see what other players do with that. Season one we had the Talva Shelf, the Elysian Circle Mage, the Elven Apostate, and you got to explore what the players did with those characters and those concepts. It's unpredictable, so you never know exactly how a scene's going to play out, and that's really cool to see a story kind of unravel in a way that you, even as DM, you won't have fully anticipated. Engages the imagination, allows you to be creative. It gives you the opportunity to tell your own story rather than watching something, say, on TV. And it's great to see who your character bonds with, who they don't, if there's any romances, or if there's anything that kind of comes out of just you telling your story and talking about your character and role playing them. And I think that's great, and it's just such a fun thing to explore.
Question number three, why do you believe that you would be a good person for others to play with?
Okay. Well, as mentioned before, I'm a very social person. I actually work in communications in real life, so I'm one of those people that likes to get everybody involved. I want to include everybody. I love to give people, reasons to talk to each other and just see where that goes, try to build on kind of natural chemistry. It's important for me to get to know both the characters and the players behind them. Again, just because I love getting to know people. I'm a bit of a social butterfly, I suppose, and learning about people because there's this big world out there, lots of different people, and not everybody's going to have the same ideas. It's fun to bounce off each other. I'm a huge Dragon Age nerd, so I'd be able to follow along very easily. I've read all the novels, played all the games. It's embarrassing how much I love this world. And I do also take active steps to avoid, common tabletop faux pas like metagaming, for instance. I do
Hmm.
try to get into the mind of the character. Easy to get along with, and I would be genuinely eager to take part.
Okay. What do you believe is your biggest weakness as a player, and how do you plan on overcoming slash improving that weakness?
Yeah, this is a good question, actually. It really, really made me think. Um, so I think my biggest weakness would probably be that, as I've already kind of touched on, I do really like to talk to others, but I suppose because I like to listen to others speak and like hearing what people have to say and giving them the opportunity to do so, that means that I might sometimes come across as quiet myself or perhaps even disengaged because I'm so intensely focused on what everybody else is doing and talking about. And, I'm really listening, but perhaps during that time, I might seem a bit aloof as a player. So it'd be useful for me to work on that by kind of pushing myself on a regular basis to make sure that my character is contributing to the discussions and maybe pushing them into the spotlight a little bit sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And even if there's lots of different people talking, just putting myself out there a bit more, even if that means kind of you know if there's some more vocal members of the group, pushing myself just a bit further out than I normally might do because I'm too busy listening.
So, and then my last question I was hoping was a fairly fun question,
Yeah.
which is pick any event or situation, no matter how big or small, that took place in the Dragon Age Season 1, and how would your character have handled that situation differently or similarly?
Yeah, I love this question because it gives me a chance to tie into something that was actually asked of me quite a lot in the comment section when I posted
Mm-hmm.
my audition up, where they asked what Theobin was doing while Branka was ruling Orzammar, turning good to be
Yes,
Gollum.
I am curious about that.
Yeah, so I mean, what happened in reality is that Theobin and his buddy Janar they ended up hiding through a hollowed out wall in Janar's shop. You might remember Janar
Yes, I
from
remember.
Origins. He was not
Yep.
happy there was a hole in his shop.
Yes, I
Um,
remember that.
and then the resistance finds them. What Theoben would have done if he were in the adventuring party during that time, he would actually be infuriated by what's well, he was already infuriated, but as in he would actually have probably had the nerve to take on Bronca directly. He'd have
Mm,
found it very difficult to do the underhanded, sneaky tactics that the party ended up using in the end. I mean, Theoben cares about Orzammar a lot, and while he accepts that they do need to fight to get the Dwarven Empire back, Branka sacrificed the lives of many dwarves to do what she did,
yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
Theoben would have struggled to stand by and play nice with Branka after that. I think the party saw her a total of 3 times before the fight, and I just don't think Theoben could have handled that. I think he would have lost his cool probably the first time. I'm not saying it would have worked out well for him if he'd have done that,
Yes.
but he would have definitely struggled in that situation.
So he definitely didn't buy that Bronco was looking out for the good of all dwarves, for the good of your people. We have to
Yeah,
evolve. We have to change with the
yeah,
times.
I mean, he definitely wants the dwarven glory back. He definitely wants I mean, for there only to be 2 cities left of the dwarven empire, and for
Mm-hmm.
Orzammar to be the largest. The rest of it's swallowed up by deep roads. I mean, that does affect him. He is
Mm-hmm.
a dwarf at heart, and he does accept that. Yeah, we do need to be fighting the Darkspawn, and we do need to be pushing them back. But Branka sacrificed dwarven sovereignty,
Mm-hmm.
um, more or less almost wiped them out to do what she
Yes.
did, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just way too far. Absolutely.
So that those are the out of character questions. So now
Yeah.
we're going to go into the in character role playing. Let's say hypothetically speaking, you have learned that the crew of the Tempest Dream
Mm-hmm.
um, are looking to recruit a few more members. They're looking to recruit a
Okay.
few more members, and you chose Cogs
Yeah.
again, a big fan favorite, myself
Have a
included.
lot
I
of
love
people
Cogs.
chosen cogs.
Yes, and you actually so far the first person who's interviewing with Cogs so far. I'm
Oh,
surprised,
I'm
but
surprised.
well, it's actually really cool because I don't think anyone has duplicated another person's interview. Everyone's picked a different person, so
That's really
it's
cool.
it's it's
Yeah.
really cool. Everyone's picking a different person. So you are now in Bella's tavern, and you have an appointment with Cogs himself, and you know who Cogs is. Like everyone has heard the stories of the heroes of Ferelden.
Mhm.
So a lot of these characters um, that were from season one, you at least know by name.
Okay.
Okay, so
Would he know Cogs as a dwarf? Have they seen each other?
yes.
Okay.
Well, you
Half
might
dwarf.
have seen him in passing, or people might have described you to him.
Hmm.
He's definitely someone who's very unique. So if you have
Yeah.
seen him, you would not forget him.
Yeah, that's
So
what I thought. I wasn't sure whether to prepare an initial reaction of, well, or whether he'd seen him before.
you can decide whether his physical appearance and personality surprises you in any way.
Okay.
But you enter into the room, and this little guy, he's like over at the table, and he seems to be eating some porridge or something, super porridge. Damn.
Theobin's taking very small, steady steps into the tavern. His eyes are darting left and right. He's looking around. Of course, he only has to do this for a few seconds and he sees Cogs there.
Yes. It's not an overly crowded.
No.
There's a few humans. There's just a few humans, but other than that, Cogs
Yeah,
is pretty much the one that sticks out like a sore
yeah.
thumb in this
And
room.
the second he notices Cogs, yeah, it sticks out. His eyes stay on him. So he spends a few seconds just watching. He's looking. He's observing how Cogs is behaving because he might have heard of Cogs, but he doesn't
Yes.
necessarily know, you know, what his temperament's like and
Right.
not. So he's assessing threat, which he tends to do a lot. He's very
Right.
tactical. Um, Again, doesn't take him too long to figure out, okay, this guy's not going to be an issue. So he
Okay.
he walks up to the table, puts a hand on the table in a fist shape, in a way of saying, "Excuse me."
Cogs, he's like in mid spoonful, and he looks up towards you, and as soon as you say that, he drops the spoon into his bowl, and he goes, "Oh, hello! My name is Cogs. What's yours?"
Theobin, nice to meet you, Cogs.
Theobin. Nice to meet you, Theobin. And he starts to hold out his hand to shake.
He assesses the hand for a second, and his hand reaches out, takes it, shakes a couple of times, and he withdraws and sits down.
When you withdraw, Cog says, "So what brings you to? Oh wait a minute. Did you say Theobin?
That's
Uh-oh.
me. Yeah.
Uh-oh. He's like going through his things. Was that was that supposed to be? Oh, that's supposed to be now. I'm sorry." And then he like sort of pushes the bowl to the other side, and it accidentally falls onto the floor. Oh, whoops, whoops! And one of the people who works there says, "It's all right, Cogs. We have it. We have it. Sorry. Um." So you're here for the interview? Yes, that was part of the test.
Theobin kind of raises a hand as if, stop talking. Pats him on the shoulder. I'm not that scary, am I? He says as he starts to look over at the waitress who's cleaning the
No,
bowl.
no, not scary. It's just, well, the captain was hoping for me to be as, professional as possible.
He
Um,
ra- he raises an eyebrow. I think that kind of went out the window, don't you think?
yeah, you won't tell her, will you?
It's our secret.
Okay, thank you. So, let's get down to business, as they say. And he takes out a piece of paper and, he
Yeah,
pulls a
he
pencil.
nods very assertively. Yep, that's good.
So, Theobin, what exactly is your skill set? What do you think you can contribute to our crew?
Well, I happen to be a fine poison maker. Herbalism. On top of that, I happen to be skilled in bargaining and coercion. Uh, I'm also a pretty fine merchant if you're in need of supplies. And on top of that, I am handsome.
You're an herbalist? Wow.
Well, I try to be, but you know what it's like. I don't know. Have you ever been to Ozma?
I've been to Earlsmar a couple times, yes. To visit the king. You know King Kine?
Oh, of course, King Kine, Resistance. Yeah.
What
Well,
do you think of him? I hope he's a good king.
no problems with him whatsoever. I'm not saying he's on my best friend list because, King kind of stay away. They tend to hold the vendors' licenses. So as long as I'm allowed to do my thing, yeah, keep distance. But yeah, seems all right.
Oh, okay.
But the problem is, though, you know what Ozmar's like then, right? You go to the surface and suddenly you're exiled and you're a threat to Dwarven society and all that. So sometimes my suppliers are a bit topside, but they don't need to know
Yeah, a couple of our friends sort of got changed. Well, I guess for the better after he visited Orzammar. I guess you could say. But anyway, that's besides the point. Okay, great. Question number two. Um,
Theobin is very amused by this point. He's kind of laughing inwardly as he's
yeah,
watching Cog.
it's one of those things where you've heard that Cogs is a very brilliant mind, but you may or may not have heard that he has a bit of a childlike temperament.
Mhm.
So, but it's cool that it's you seem to find it endearing, or at least
Yeah, well,
harmless.
he's bemused is probably the right word.
Okay. Next question. How long have you been on the surface?
Shh, not on the surface. I'm in Osmar right now. Not on the surface.
Okay. And
Remember, he lowers his voice. Remember what I said. Cannot go to the surface. I'll be a castless. All right. So
oh
you didn't
yes,
see me. Okay.
yes, of
Okay.
course, yes.
And once I'm flying on your pretty ship, that's fine. But yeah, at the moment, it's down low. I'm on the surface.
Well, I actually that was part of my next question. If you hypothetically were not in the surface,
Of
he
course.
says, how do you feel about falling into the sky? Because, well, an airship requires you to be very close to the sky.
Yeah. So I've been to, I mean, not been to the surface. Uh, 3 times. He looks up at it, remembering.
Oh, you've not been to the surface three
I've
times.
not been to the surface 3 times, my man.
Wow.
So the first time I went there, obviously,
The first time you
it
did
was
not go there.
the first time I did not get. You're catching on,
Yes.
really. This is great.
Yeah, you and me. He says, you and me.
Yeah, totally. Right. First time I wasn't on the surface, it was like it was like drowning. So
Mm.
it felt like I was going to be swallowed up by the earth. It was going to spit me right out again. And my first instinct was to head straight back to Orzammar. And if it weren't that I had a few clients waiting for me, not on the surface, of course,
Mm.
then I don't think I would have ever come out again. Fortunately, my father, who at the time was working for the Ambassadoria, you probably have you heard of them?
I don't think so.
That's all right. We pretend they don't exist. The dwarven representatives for Tevinter. They advise the Archon and the Magisterium on matters of trade between Tevinter and Orzammar.
Ah.
So he had a lot to do with not being on the surface, and he pushed me to come out more and see more that isn't Orzammar. And to be honest, right now, I could probably walk outside with you and be almost completely fine and only slightly nauseous. So that's a win.
Wow. Not bad for someone who's never been on the surface.
I know, right? I'm
That's
good.
impressive. Wow. Okay. Okay. So my next question is: so because you're an herbalist, what type of plant do you find the most fascinating?
That's interesting because I would honestly say that anything that could make a good debilitating poison is probably all right in my book, and that can require anything from, well, your common herbs to rarer stuff. I would say that If I was to pick one, and he pauses, he purses
Mhm.
his lips, touches his lips for a second. He goes, I think I might go for elf fruit. And I know what you're going to say. That's boring. You find elf fruit in everything. You trip over elf fruit. It's everywhere, right? Not, yeah, not on the surface. But
Yeah, not
my,
on the surface.
not on the surface. He winks at Cog's kite.
Yes, he winks back.
But because it's reliable, it's a safety net. There's a lot out there that's just not controllable. There's plants unpredictable, and if you get a bad batch, you're probably as likely to heal yourself as you are to lose your stomach. So, if you've got some elf fruit, you know you're getting healed. Find anything else? Depends how you brew it. Gold elf fruit will never turn you down. Never go wrong.
Okay, awesome. So I have one more question. So as people on the Tempest Dream, we have a bit of a past as maybe pirates, but not pirates, but sort of like not surface.
Not pirates,
So
not on the surface. Yeah, I got you. Got you, man.
yes, so my question is, as a member of the Dwarven Society, what is probably the biggest misconception that you think people have about your people, that people have about dwarves, and explain that misconception to me?
Other than the fact we live in the ground and drink a lot, which is true. Well, let's see. It depends. What kind of dwarven society are we talking about? Are we talking about the nobles that sit up there in their palace, or are we talking about the common man?
Oh, whichever you think is the one that's the most, uh, in, that has the most injustice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If you go to any noble house in Orzammar, you'll find two things: manipulation and backstabbing. You go to any house in Dusttown, and all you'll find are starving mothers, crying babies, and people just trying to make a living. I think that's the biggest injustice that dwarves have, is that they all think we're these scheming, manipulatives, will stab anyone as long as it can get ahead. And you know what? You know what Orzammar is really? It's 90% of people just trying to get by, just trying to live through a effed up system that tries to make us feel inferior because we're not from a noble house. And I think
Wow.
he chuckles to himself a bit, and after a brief silence, he takes that as a sign he should continue. I think if you were to take Orzammar and its finest dwarves, that would not take you to any noble house. It wouldn't take you to any paragon. It would take you to somebody that's earning to make a living for their family in a society that's getting swallowed up by darkspawn and has a dwindling fertility rate that risks out wiping out the entire dwarven race. This is before some crazy witch tried to stick us all in golems.
Wow. I'm really sorry to hear that. And I thought we had it bad up here on the surface that you're not at right now.
Yeah. Theo's face is kind of strained, like that was very hard for him to say, but at the same time he's trying to keep a kind of amused expression. But you can see that there's kind of his wrinkles around his face, as if that was quite hard for him to get out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put out something that was sensitive. But I'm glad you told me. You gave me a lot to think about.
You've really never been to Orzammar, have you, lad?
Like I said a couple times, but normally just to see the king. I didn't get to see Dust Town.
Yeah. Well, you're not missing out. Were
Well,
you
it
were you
sounds like maybe I am.
were you part of a cast or were you exiled?
Oh, I wasn't even born down there. I was born up here.
Really?
My mother was an elf. My dad was a surface dwarf. I didn't really get to know my parents that well.
Theo tilts his head slightly and takes a closer look at Cogs's features, frowns for a second. You're half elf?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of. I don't know how it works, but some people say that's kind of why I'm, well, not really very proportionate, let's say. He says, as he's like, basically saying that he's short. Even for a dwarf, he's short.
Okay. Yeah, I think Theo probably wouldn't pry too much, but he'd probably just kind of have that look on his face as if he's Cogs is some kind of item of study or something. Because he's never come across a half dwarf
Yes,
before, so it'd be very
yes.
interesting to him.
Well, out of character, and a lot of people are getting a lot of tidbits of information because this is the first time Cogs has ever mentioned his parents at all. But just as a tidbit information to people who are watching, I'm aware that in traditional Dragon Age lore, you can't have like you can't have a mixing of races, at least with elves and dwarves, for example.
Mm.
It's usually the race is dependent on the mother. But in this universe, you can. There is an in-game explanation as to why that is the case. It's just season one never found out the reason. I'm wondering if season two will find out the reason.
Stay tuned.
Mass Effect may have subtly found the reason, indirectly found the reason, and that's all I'm gonna say.
If you want someone in your campaign that's going to be straight talking, who's going to make sure that things get done, who's going to make sure that there are honest, good working people doing their jobs and not faffing about with that blood magic or mana or crazy crap that the surface people get up to, you need a dwarf. You need a dwarf that can poison people. And you know what? I'm a perfectionist, and if that attack is not done 0.5% better than that other guy, then you're just not trying. That's why you need me. You need me to make sure that everybody's doing their jobs and killing whatever it is we're going to be killing. I don't care. I'm not biased. I'll kill darkspawn. I'll kill demons. I don't care. Yeah, and that's why you need a dwarf like me.